Alright, yeah! Thank God for fantasy football. I'm Buster Brown, and the show, it's called Redemption Rehab. And if you tuned in today, it's for one reason. It's to start winning championships in fantasy football. Here we are on our website, fantasyfootballredemptionrehab.com. When you get a chance, check it out. Today, we're here talking about our weekly Waiver Wire Report, where we help you find impact players week in and week out to help you win a championship in 2020. So buckle up, get out your popcorn, and let's head over to the chalkboard
and check out the facts.
Okay, here we are talking about our weekly Waiver Wire Report. And we're going to start it out by giving you some quick hits at some of the positions that you may need to fill on your roster, like kicker. If you have kickers in your league, I suggest you go out and get Cincinnati Bengals Randy Bullock. The former Ohio State Buckeye in Week 4 kicked 4 field goals, and one of them was as long as 49 yards, and he had 3 extra points. He scored almost 20 points in fantasy football, and I think you should go out and put him on your team. He's going to get a lot of work in a high-powered Cincinnati offense. Another quick hit is the Washington football team defense. They play against the Los Angeles Rams in Washington. The Rams have to make the West Coast to East Coast trip, and I hear the weather might not be so good. So they'll have to play in weather they're not accustomed to. So I like the Washington football team in Week 5 as a defense. If you need quarterbacks, well, I tell you what, hopefully you took our advice and picked up rookie quarterback Joe Burrows for Cincinnati. He's having a phenomenal year. And rookie Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers. He threw for 3 TDs and went toe-to-toe with Tom Brady down in Tampa. Kid looks like a good rookie. So if those guys are on your waiver wire, go out and get them. Another quarterback we really like is Teddy Bridgewater. He threw for 2 TDs and ran for 1 against the Arizona Cardinals in Week 4. So we like him going forward. Let's take a look at some long shots. Some long shot quarterbacks we like. Maybe your league's a 2-quarterback league or there's just nobody left. I hear Joe Flacco might get to start for Sam Darnold in New York. Hey, it's a juicy matchup. Sam Darnold might not be able to play because of his shoulder injury. Joe Flacco's a veteran. They're getting their players back, so he might be somebody you might want to consider. We also like CJ Beathard at San Francisco. If Garofalo, the starting quarterback, isn't back this week, we think that CJ Beathard may come in and have a decent week. We also like Brett Rypien of the Denver Broncos. He's got a good matchup. He played well last week against the Jets, and he's only going to get better if Drew Lock isn't coming back this week, and I don't think he will. And the last quarterback we want to mention that's a long shot, and he's not expected to play this week, but you better hide Tua Tagovailoa from Miami on your roster. I think it's just a matter of time before he gets to play in the NFL. Let's go take a look at some tight ends we like for Week 5 of the NFL season. Okay, here we are talking about tight ends in Week 5 of the NFL season. Last week we mentioned Rob Gronkowski and O.J. Howard as tight ends that you need to consider for Week 4. Well, O.J. Howard went out and scored a touchdown, was looking at breaking through this year, but he blew out his Achilles tendon. That's why we still like Rob Gronkowski, and we're going to add Cameron Brate. They're on the same team, but somebody's going to pick up the slack because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are injured from top to bottom on that team. We also told you last week about Mo Alley-Cox of the Indianapolis Colts. What did he do? He went out and scored another touchdown again last week. If you get a chance, check your waiver wire. Go get Mo Alley-Cox. And this guy, we told you about him last week, and all he did was go out and score 3 touchdowns. If you had tuned in to the waiver wire report, you would have seen this guy, and his name is Robert Tonyan. Robert Tonyan had 6 receptions for 98 yards and 3 touchdowns on 6 targets in their Monday night game against the Atlanta Falcons. Some other players we like on this box score is this guy, Jamal Williams. We're talking tight ends, but since we're on this box score, we want to show you what he did last week on Monday Night Football against Atlanta. Look at that, 8 receptions for 95 yards, and he had 8 carries for 10 yards. And we got to show you this guy over here too, because we're going to mention him later, Olamide Zaccheaus. He had 8 receptions, 86 yards. Last week, he put up similar numbers and scored a touchdown. You might want to keep an eye on some other tight ends. If you didn't get a chance to get this guy like we told you to last week, keep an eye on the situation in Denver for tight ends. Nick Finette and Jake Butt are going to be splitting time for the injured Noah Fant in Denver. So keep an eye on that situation. You might be able to get yourself a good tight end cheap. Let's head over and check out the running backs we like for week 5 of the NFL season. One of the running backs we really like this week is this guy, Damian Harris of the New England Patriots. He's playing because Sony Michel went on injured reserve, so he's gone for 3 weeks and he's going to play well. Damian Harris had 17 carries for 100 yards. He didn't exactly catch the ball out of the backfield, as you can see down here, and he's got a split time with James White and Rex Burkhead. So I wouldn't spend a ton of money on him. He's probably not going to be available in many leagues, but if you want a running back that's going to start and score some points for you for at least the next 2-3 weeks, it's this guy, Damian Harris. Let's go take a look at another running back we really like with the Cleveland Browns. Okay, here we are checking out the Cleveland Browns. When Nick Chubb got hurt in the first quarter of the Cowboy game, they had to put somebody else in the game besides Kareem Hunt because Kareem Hunt is nursing a growing injury. Well, it was this guy, and his name is D'Ernest Johnson. He had 13 carries for 95 yards. As you can see down here, he didn't catch very many balls, and he's also competing with time from a guy that you might even get cheaper than him on your waiver wire, and his name is Dontrell Hilliard, who was 5 for 19 and caught 1 ball for 2 yards. Cleveland likes to run the ball, so they're going to use a lot of backs. D'Ernest Johnson looked like the best player on the field against the Cowboys, but they got a tough matchup coming up this week, so against the Indianapolis Colts. I know you want to go out and spend a lot of money on this guy, but I'm not sure I would, but we have to mention him to you because that's why it's called the Weekly Waiver Wire Report. Let's go take a look at a guy I really like, and he plays for the Los Angeles Chargers. Okay, I've got some guys in this box score that you may want to consider picking up in week 5 of your waiver wire. And it's starting with these 2 guys over in Los Angeles. Joshua Kelly, we've been mentioning for weeks now. He's the rookie, and he was the backup to Austin Eckler, who tore his hamstring and could be out 6 weeks or more. So you got to replace him with a good running back. Well, the rookie is Joshua Kelly, and he was 9 carries for 7 yards. And as you can see down here, why everybody likes him is he had 3 catches for 26 yards on 3 targets. But that's not the guy that's probably going to be the starter. It's probably going to be Justin Jackson. He only had 6 carries for 9 yards. Now, of course, they were playing against a tough Tampa Bay defense, but he also had 2 catches for 12 yards on 2 targets. Look, these 2 guys are going to split time. I just can't see them putting Justin Herbert out there with another rookie that might miss some passing assignments when teams blitz, because that's what they do to rookie quarterbacks. So I think Justin Jackson's going to get to see some playing time in Los Angeles. So I'd be looking at both of these 2 to pick up on the waiver wire for week 5. And if you want a really deep sleeper who's going to get some playing time for at least this week, it's this guy, Keyshawn Vaughn. Keyshawn Vaughn only had 3 carries for 4 yards and 2 catches down here for 22 yards on 3 targets and a touchdown. You know, with the injuries in Tampa Bay, man, are like the walking wounded. LaShawn McCoy's probably not playing Thursday. He's got an ankle problem. Leonard Fournette said he might need another week. I think Ronald Jones is going to see the majority of carries, but you might get to see Keyshawn Vaughn play on Thursday night against Chicago. We've got some quick hitters that are some long shots that may be available on your waiver wire. One of them is Chase Edmonds for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm talking, Kenyon Drake isn't doing anything. When they put this guy in the game, Chase Edmonds seems to play better. So we really like him, and if he's on your waiver wire, go get him. Another guy we really like, Mike Davis took over for McCaffrey when he got hurt down in Carolina. But Reggie Bonifant has been the backup for McCaffrey the last couple years, and he got some playing time. He had like 10 carries for 53 yards, caught some passes, and a touchdown against Arizona. So don't count Reggie Bonifant out. And you might want to keep an eye on Jamal Williams out in Green Bay. We showed you the box score earlier, and he had 8 catches for like 50 yards. That's pretty good. And we really like J.D. McKissic over there for the Washington football team. He's also catching 5-6 balls a game. Hey, if you really are in trouble at running back, one of these long shots might help you in week 5 of the NFL season. When we come back, we're going to dive in to wide receivers. Okay, here we are looking at wide receivers in week 5 of the NFL season. Last week we told you had to go out and get Cincinnati's T. Higgins. He went out and had another good game. We also told you about Minnesota's Justin Jefferson. He went out and he also balled out. We told you about Cole Beasley and Greg Ward. They went out and had good games for their teams also. So when you get a chance, make sure that those guys aren't available on your waiver wire. But 2 guys I want to mention in this box score here that had a big games on Thursday night was 1, Jeff Smith down here for the New York Jets. He had 7 catches for 81 yards on 9 targets. The Jets are getting back some of their key players, so I wouldn't spend a lot of money on him. But another guy I really like is this guy for the Denver Broncos, Tim Patrick. He was 6 receptions for 113 yards, 1 touchdown on 7 targets. Look, these guys are young players. If I had to choose between them, I'd probably go with Tim Patrick because I just don't see anybody else taking time away from him. And he has a rapport with the quarterback that might be playing this week, Brett Ripien. And when Drew Lock comes back, he's going to have to get a report from him. These are young players, but you should consider them on your waiver wire. We've got some other players you should consider. We told you earlier about Olamide Zaccheaus for the Atlanta Falcons. He had a huge game. I would consider taking him this week, especially with the injuries that Atlanta has at wide receiver to Julio Jones and some of their other players. I also like Darnell Mooney over in Chicago. I don't know, he's had 2 good weeks in a row. Anthony Miller might not be panning out. I liked Anthony Miller at the beginning of the year, but he's not doing much. And this kid seems to be playing balls out every week. His name's Darnell Mooney for the Chicago Bears. Don't forget about Isaiah Ford. We mentioned him a couple weeks ago. He went out and had himself a nice game against the Seattle Seahawks. So keep an eye on Isaiah Ford for the Miami Dolphins. A couple more wide receivers before we wrap it up. Damiere Byrd out in New England. He had a good game against the Kansas City Chiefs, so I wouldn't be surprised if he saw more playing time. And David Moore of the Seattle Seahawks managed to catch a touchdown. This kid has good weeks and he has bad weeks, but you know what? Seattle can't run the ball because they seem to be injured a lot, so they're throwing the ball a lot to their tight ends and to wide receivers like David Moore. Well, there you have it. We gave you all the impact players we promised to help you fill out your rosters this week in fantasy football. I'm Buster Brown. The show is called Redemption Rehab. Good luck.